Who want a ticket straight to them pearly gates?
I don't know if this comes as a surprise to anyone, but we finally have official confirmation that season 2 is happening. It's coming. It's real. The thing about season 1 for Tekken 8 is that there's been a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and now players are starting to compare it to Tekken 7 and say which of the two is better. I did a poll. It's currently ongoing, but it has 3,000 votes so far. It'll probably average at about 8,000, so it could turn. But out of 3,000, almost 70% says Tekken 8 is better than Tekken 7. So maybe the game isn't that bad. And maybe the things that are being said about it is just fear mongering, dooming for content, and people, the nostalgia kicking in. When Tekken 7 was doing this thing, that's when people started talking about Tekken Tag Tournament 2. And the conversation never really stopped. And that's why I put that on the list here, is because I want to see how all three of these games stack up against one another in this very chaotic landscape. But regardless of how you feel about Tekken 8, I think it's obvious that the game does need improvements. A lot of players are looking towards Season 2 to bring many things, to bring characters, to bring balance changes, to bring patches to bugs and glitches and things that's been plaguing the game for months. Tekken players talk about Season 2 the same way a little kid talks about Christmas. Oh my God, it's going to be so amazing. Harada-san is going to come down my chimney dressed as Santa Claus and deliver all the buffs and all the, like, that's how Tekken players talk about Season 2. And it is kind of like, I don't want to say sad, but it's like players are desperately looking forward to Season 2 and what it will offer. And with this confirmation of its existence, the developers are definitely going to try to bring the heat, and they're going to try to change everything, right? The first question that I'll ask for the people who are not liking the gameplay: how likely is it, do you think, that Harada will pull back on all of the forced 50-50s and just let the natural Tekken shine through that everyone wants? Will they take that back? Because if they don't, I think that Tekken doesn't change that much. Tekken 8 doesn't change that much. Another thing that I want to acknowledge is with Tekken 7. With Tekken 7, you could talk about going to Season 2, Season 3, Season 4. They added a lot of new mechanics in the game that really defined the way that the game was played. Now, I know power crushes in Tekken 7 wasn't that impactful at the top level. You talk about tournaments, but in a casual environment, power crushing, wall bounces was crazy, especially just the introduction of power crushes in general. That's not something that was there at the start of Tekken 7. So I wonder, will we get something like that where they add in a new mechanic, a new thing all together, and that's has like a big profound impact on the game. Something that you do have to think about too, though, is like they're layering so many different mechanics on top of one another, and at what point do you say, okay, that's enough, and let's just try to perfect what we have? Also, you could talk about the inclusion of new moves is something that was very important with Tekken 7. Just how much of the things that we experience with Tekken 7 transferring from one season to another will be repeated with Tekken 8. They had a lot of time to learn what works and doesn't work, and now they can apply that to a brand new game and really get this game up and going. So the confirmation for the Season 2 comes during this live stream where Bandai Namco took part in a Unreal talk, where they were talking about how they use Unreal Engine. In this segment, they were basically talking about how they were designing characters, and they could do so very easily. They broke up all the characters into different sections: male, female. They even have one listed for big, and they have another checkbox that's specific to Leo. And this is probably why the Bears, Jack, and Leo, this is probably why they also have certain outfits that they can and cannot fit, because when the developers go into the game, they check all these boxes to see what items will be accessible to which characters. But in this Unreal live stream, they basically were talking about all of these different things with outfits and how they design their game. And it was basically to teach other developers their way of using Unreal. It was basically just sharing information from a lot of different developers. But in this section here, they showed a screenshot where they were describing all of this, and you can see it says season launch. That's talking about the day one of the game. And then it says Season 1, which is not checked, and then right next to it, it says Season 2. And here is our official confirmation that they are in fact working on a Season 2, and it will include outfits as well. And we already know the store support will not end. Now, here's the thing that I was thinking about with Tekken 8. If you go back to Tekken 7 also had a guaranteed 2 seasons. Harada says, I was thinking of just ending at Season 2. I didn't have a business plan or strategy for it. I had nothing backing it. I had no funds too. Obviously, success is going to factor in greatly when it comes to much more dynamic, modern approach of fighting games as a service. That's kind of what we're dealing with right now. Tekken 7 was the birth of it, but Tekken 8 is full swing. It was introduced with the concept of making it up to only Season 2, but when it was released, the sales increased with it. The number of tournaments increased exponentially. Going off of Tekken Tag Tournament 2, that game was kind of a chaos. It didn't perform that well. So with Tekken 7, they had a guaranteed Season 2. It appears they're in that same situation again for Tekken 8, where Season 2 is automatically here next to Season 1. And you have to wonder, what characters are they guaranteeing to be a part of the roster? There's a lot of popular characters, but only a few will be able to make it in, especially when you start to talk about doing 4 characters every season. Tekken 7 kind of mix up the formula a lot. They did 2, they did 6, they did 4, and then they did 2, right? If you do a consistent 4, 4, 4, 4, 4 like Katarina, what is the best way to go about breaking that down? The characters who showed up very late in Tekken 7 seems like they're getting first dibs on Tekken 8. The characters who were base roster for Tekken 7, how long do you wait until you put them into the game? And then the characters who wasn't in the game at all, how do you incorporate them? So there's a lot of questions around how they'll do DLC, and I think it's very important questions because, yes, tournaments is the biggest thing that was pushing this game forward. I know Neat and Ulsan just had an incredible tournament. A lot of people are talking about it, but also the characters that they put into the game also boosted up Tekken 7 as well, right? I think this is an excellent time for them to rise out of a lot of the controversy that they were in and start to get Tekken back on track. Season 2 is an excellent thing. Players are looking forward to change. So when you do change something and change it massively, players will be open to it. And at this point, players are yearning for it. The only thing that I constantly come back to is how much will they change the gameplay, the structure, the foundation? Will they change these mechanics on a fundamental level and really give Season 2 a brand new take? Because something else you have to think about is Tekken 7 and every past Tekken came out in arcades for at least 1 year before consoles. Once it eventually reached consoles, it was very different. I posted a video on Twitter just recently of Tekken 3 alpha footage promo, and just looking at that video, you can see how drastically Tekken 3 changed from what we know and remember. Harang is doing like Chung Li kicks and whatnot. So with Tekken 8 not having that arcade version, you have to wonder if this game was still going through that arcade style transition and if Season 2 will really change. I don't know. I hope it does, but at the same time, I know that players are starting to get very well adjusted to how the game is now. And if you change it all over again, players will have to readjust all over again. And usually when the player base have to do that, they immediately say that the experience is bad, and then maybe they'll adjust over time and start to like it, start to enjoy it. I just want to make this video and talk about Season 2, the confirmation of it, and everything else in between.